The message came from the stars on a cold morning in December. Every screen on Earth flickered at the same moment. Every phone, every television, every computer displayed the same image. A face that was not human stared back at 8 billion people. High Overlord Vex sat on a throne made of black metal. His skin was gray like stone. His eyes were yellow and cold like a dead sun. Behind him stood thousands of soldiers in armor that glowed with strange light. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "People of the galaxy," Vex said. His voice was smooth and cruel. "I speak to you today to remind you of your place. The Dominion Empire has ruled for 8,000 years. We have brought order to chaos. We have brought peace through strength, and we have watched over every corner of the stars." In the Earth Defense Command Center, Admiral Kang Tae stood perfectly still. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Around him, officers watched the screens with fear on their faces, but Tae showed nothing. He simply watched. "Today I wish to discuss the lesser species," Vex continued. The image changed to show different planets, different creatures. "These are the civilizations we protect. Some are useful, some are not, and some—" He laughed. The sound was like breaking glass. The image changed again. Earth appeared on the screen. A small blue planet floating alone in the darkness. "And some are so small, so weak, so pathetic, that they are not even worth conquering." Vex leaned forward on his throne. His yellow eyes seemed to look directly at everyone watching. The humans of Earth. The pale worms of the dead spiral arm. "We have classified them as level 0. Do you know what that means? It means they are nothing. They have existed for barely a moment. They have spread to only a few rocks near their dying star. Their technology is primitive. Their bodies are fragile. A child of the Dominion could crush 10 of them without effort." Across the galaxy, thousands of species watched, and they laughed. They laughed because the Overlord was laughing. They laughed because they had learned long ago that it was safer to laugh with the Dominion than to stay silent. Admiral Kang Tae did not laugh. His hands remained steady at his sides. His face remained calm. Only his eyes moved, watching every detail of the broadcast. "We will not waste resources conquering Earth," Vex announced. "They will simply pay tribute like all weak species. They will give us whatever we ask, and they will be grateful that we allow them to exist at all." The broadcast ended. The screens went dark. Silence filled the Defense Command Center. A young officer named Lieutenant Baek Jin stepped forward. He was barely 30 years old, with fire in his eyes and anger in his voice. "Admiral, we cannot let this stand. They insulted us in front of the entire galaxy. They called us worms. They called us nothing." Tae turned slowly to face him. "Yes, they did. Then what do we do? How do we respond?" Admiral Kang Tae walked to the main screen. He pressed a button, and the recording of the broadcast began to play again. Vex's laughing face filled the room once more. "Record everything," Tae said quietly. Every species that laughed. Every word he said. Every expression on his face. He paused the image on Vex's cruel smile. "They will remember this day. But they will remember it very differently than they expect." What the Dominion did not know, what the entire galaxy did not know, was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 200 years. In 2147, Earth detected strange signals coming from deep space. Scientists studied them for decades. They learned that humans were not alone. They learned that a great empire ruled the stars, and they learned that this empire conquered or destroyed everything it touched. Earth's governments did something they had never done before. They stopped fighting each other. They united under one purpose. They began to prepare. On Mars, deep beneath the red soil, factories built weapons that the galaxy had never seen. On Europa, hidden under miles of ice, shipyards constructed a fleet designed for one purpose: survival. On Titan, research stations developed technology that broke the rules of physics as the Dominion understood them. Dr. Choi Soo was the greatest mind of her generation. She was a small woman with kind eyes and hands that never stopped moving. For 40 years, she had led the secret weapons program. Now, she stood before Admiral Conte with a device the size of a man's fist. "We call it the pulse hammer," she explained. "The Dominion ships use energy shields. Every species in the galaxy uses similar technology. They believe these shields are perfect protection." She smiled softly. "They are wrong. How does it work?" Tay asked. "The shield technology creates a stable energy field by maintaining specific molecular vibrations. The pulse hammer disrupts those vibrations at the quantum level. When activated, any shield within range simply stops working. The molecules forget how to hold together. The ship becomes vulnerable. More than vulnerable. It becomes fragile." Admiral Tay held the small device in his hand. 40 years of work. 40 years of secrecy. 40 years of hope and fear and determination, all contained in this small piece of metal and light. Will it work against their entire fleet? Dr. Choi Su nodded. "We have tested it against every shield frequency we could intercept from their communications. It works against all of them. They have not changed their basic technology in 3,000 years. Why would they? No one has ever challenged them." 3 days later, a Dominion ship entered human space. It was a tax collection vessel, large and slow and confident. The crew of 12 aliens expected no trouble. They had done this 1,000 times to 1,000 species. They would demand tribute. The primitive humans would bow and obey, and the universe would continue as it always had. Captain Yoon Hannah watched the ship approach from the bridge of the Silent Wrath. She was young for a captain, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. Her ship was invisible to Dominion sensors, hidden in the darkness between planets. The Dominion ship broadcast its message. "Humans of Earth, you will prepare tribute for the Dominion Empire. Failure to comply will result in punishment. You have 12 hours." Hannah opened a communication channel. Her voice was calm and clear. "You have entered sovereign human space. Leave now or be destroyed." There was silence, then laughter. The alien captain's face appeared on screen. He was still laughing when he cut the transmission. Captain Yoon Hannah turned to her weapons officer. "Fire." The pulse hammer activated. The Dominion ship's shields flickered and died. The main cannons of the Silent Wrath fired a single concentrated burst. The tax collection vessel existed for 0.3 seconds after that. Then it was dust and memory and nothing else. Hannah looked at the empty space where the ship had been. She felt no joy. She felt no regret. She felt only the weight of what was coming. "Send a message to Admiral Tay," she said. "Tell him it has begun. The Dominion will respond. And when they do, we will be ready." The darkness of space, humanity waited. They had been mocked. They had been called worms and insects and nothing. They had been dismissed as too weak to matter. The galaxy was about to learn how wrong they were. Commander Tallis received the report with confusion. The tax collection ship had gone silent. No distress signal. No final transmission. Simply silence where there should have been routine confirmation of tribute received. He sat in his command chair aboard the Dominion, warship Iron Fist, and read the report 3 times. This did not make sense. Tax ships did not disappear. Lesser species did not resist. The universe had rules, and Tallis had enforced those rules for 300 years. "Communication error," he announced to his officers. "Send 3 patrol ships to investigate. These humans probably damaged our vessel with their primitive technology by accident. We will need to teach them how to properly serve the Dominion." The 3 ships departed. They were proper warships, armed and armored and crewed by experienced soldiers. Each one could destroy a city from orbit. Each one had participated in dozens of conquests. None of them returned. Tallis felt something he had not felt in centuries. It was small and cold, and lived in the back of his mind. He did not recognize it at first. He had forgotten what fear felt like. "Assemble a patrol fleet," he ordered. His voice was harder now, angrier. 50 warships. Full combat readiness. These primitives got lucky somehow. We will show them what happens when insects challenge the Dominion. The fleet gathered and departed for human space. 50 ships moving in perfect formation, their engines burning bright against the darkness. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a continent. Together they could crack a planet in half. Commander Talus stood at the front of his bridge, watching the stars blur as they traveled faster than light. He had conquered 12 worlds personally. He had crushed rebellions that lasted decades. These humans were nothing, less than nothing. They would learn their place, or they would die. Those were the only options the Dominion offered. The fleet emerged from faster than light, travel at the edge of human space. Talus looked at his sensors and frowned. Nothing. Empty space. No ships, no stations, no defenses. Just darkness and distant stars. "Scan again," he ordered. "We are scanning, Commander. There is nothing here. No human vessels detected anywhere in range." Talus felt that cold feeling grow stronger. This was wrong. Species did not hide from the Dominion. They came forward and begged for mercy. They offered surrender before a single shot was fired. That was how the universe worked. "Move forward," he commanded. "Search pattern Delta. Find them." The 50 ships spread out, their sensors reaching into every corner of space. Minutes passed. Then an hour? Nothing. The humans had simply vanished. Then the stars went dark. Not all of them. Just the ones around the Dominion fleet. One by one, they flickered and disappeared, as if a great hand was covering them. "What is happening?" Talus demanded. "Report. Unknown, Commander. Our sensors they are not working correctly. We cannot see anything beyond 500 units. It is like space itself has become blind." General Parkday watched the Dominion fleet from the command center on Mars. He was an old soldier with scars on his face and patience in his heart. He had waited his entire life for this moment. "GhostNet is active," an officer reported. "The Dominion fleet is completely blind. They cannot see our ships. They cannot coordinate their sensors. They are alone in the dark." Parkday nodded slowly. "Signal Lieutenant Beek Jin. Tell him to begin." Beek Jin sat in the cockpit of his fighter, surrounded by silence. Around him, 29 other pilots waited in the darkness, their ships invisible, their hearts beating fast. He remembered the broadcast. He remembered Vex laughing. He remembered being called a worm. "Black Phoenix Squadron," he said into his radio. "You know why we are here? You know what they think of us? Today, we show them what humans can do. Today we teach them to fear the dark." Fighters moved. Human ships were different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were small and fast and built for pilots who could survive forces that would kill most species. Humans had spent their history fighting each other. They had learned to make war into an art. Now, it would share that art with the Dominion. The first Dominion ship died without knowing what hit it. One moment it was scanning the darkness. The next moment, it was a ball of fire and broken metal. The second ship tried to turn toward the attack. Human missiles found it before it completed the maneuver. The third, fourth, and fifth ships died together. Caught in a crossfire from enemies they could not see, Commander Talus screamed orders that no one could follow. His fleet was designed to fight in formation, to support each other, to use superior numbers and firepower. But they could not find each other. They could not see the enemy. They could only see their own ships exploding one by one. "Return fire," Talus shouted. "Fire at anything that moves." "We cannot lock weapons, Commander. Our targeting systems are not responding. The humans have done something to our computers." Human electronic warfare had been developed over centuries of conflict. Every trick, every hack, every virus that humans had created to fight each other was now deployed against the Dominion. Their systems had never faced anything like it. They had no defense because they had never needed one. Lieutenant Beek Jin flew his fighter through the chaos with cold precision. He had trained for this his entire adult life. Every maneuver, every shot, every decision happened without thought. His body and machine were one thing, moving through the darkness like a ghost with weapons. Phoenix 3. 2 ships on your left. I see them, engaging. Phoenix 7. You have damage on your right wing. Still flying. Still fighting? 7 minutes after the battle began, it ended. 50 Dominion warships became 50 clouds of debris floating in the darkness. Not a single human fighter was lost. Admiral Kong Tae received the report on Earth. He allowed himself a small smile, just for a moment. Then his face became serious again. "Send a message to the Dominion homeworld," he ordered. No words. Just the footage of their destroyed fleet. Let them see what we did. Let them understand what is coming. The message traveled across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. It reached the Dominion homeworld within hours. It reached every other planet soon after. Ambassador Riva watched the footage from her office on a neutral space station. She was not Dominion. Her people had maintained their independence through diplomacy and usefulness. She had warned the Overlord about underestimating unknown species. He had laughed at her. "I told them," she whispered to herself. "I told them that the quiet ones are always dangerous. No one listens until the fire reaches their door." Across the galaxy, conquered species watched in silence. They saw Dominion ships burning. They saw the mighty Empire's fleet reduced to nothing by a species they had laughed at days before. Hope is a dangerous thing. It can hide in the darkest corners of the soul for generations. It can survive under the heaviest boot in the coldest cell through the longest night. And when it finally finds light, it grows faster than any empire can control. Hope was spreading now, carried on the images of burning Dominion ships. High Overlord Vex sat on his throne and watched the footage for the 10th time. His advisors stood in terrified silence around him. No one wanted to speak. No one wanted to be noticed. Vex's yellow eyes did not blink. His gray face did not move. But something had changed in him. For the first time in 1,000 years, he had seen something he did not expect. For the first time, he faced a problem that could not be solved with simple force. "Assemble the Grand Armada," he said finally. His voice was quiet, but it filled the room like thunder. "Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have." An advisor stepped forward nervously. "Overlord, the Grand Armada has not been assembled in 500 years. It would leave our other territories undefended. The conquered species might see it as weakness, and I do not care about the conquered species," Vex interrupted. "I care about these humans. They have insulted the Dominion. They have destroyed our ships. They have challenged 10,000 years of order." He stood from his throne, and everyone in the room stepped back in fear. "I want that planet erased from existence. I want their species to become a memory. I want the galaxy to forget they ever existed." He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "Assemble the Grand Armada, 10,000 ships, and tell Commander Talos that his life depends on victory." The order went out. The largest fleet in galactic history began to gather. Earth waited in the darkness, preparing for the storm. The Grand Armada gathered at the edge of Dominion space like a metal storm waiting to break. 10,000 warships, 3 million soldiers, enough firepower to burn 100 worlds. It was the largest military force assembled in 500 years. And every ship had one purpose: the complete destruction of humanity. Commander Talos stood aboard his new flagship, the Eternal Dominance. It was the largest ship in the fleet, built to inspire fear in all who saw it. But Talos felt no pride. He felt only cold anger and something close to desperation. He had lost 50 ships to these humans. He had been shamed before the entire galaxy. His life now depended on victory. The fleet moved toward human space, on Earth. Admiral Kang Tae gathered his commanders in the war room deep beneath the surface. Screens showed the approaching enemy. 10,000 points of light moving across the star maps like a disease spreading through healthy tissue. "They are bringing everything," Captain Yoon Hana observed. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "Every ship they have. Every weapon," Yes Tae replied. "They are afraid. That is why they bring so much. Fear makes people do extreme things." General Park Dae stood by the tactical display, studying the enemy formations. "We have 400 ships. They have 10,000. Even with our technology advantage, those numbers are difficult." "Difficult," Tae agreed. "Not impossible." pressed a button, and the display changed. It showed the human fleet, scattered across the solar system in small groups. It showed defense platforms hidden among the asteroids. It showed millions of small drone ships, each one carrying a pulse hammer. It showed 200 years of preparation made visible. "We will not fight them in formation," Tay explained. "We will not meet their strength with strength. We will give them a battle they have never seen before. We will show them what happens when you underestimate a species that learned to fight before it learned to walk." The strategy was simple in concept and terrifying in execution. Human ships would not concentrate. There would be no flagship to target, no command structure to destroy. Every ship would act independently, connected by artificial intelligence that shared information faster than any living being could think. They would adapt in real time, changing tactics mid-battle, exploiting every weakness the moment it appeared, and they would not retreat. No matter what happened, no matter how bad the damage, human ships would fight until they could not fight anymore. This was not just strategy. This was who humans were. Thousands of years of history had proven one truth: humanity did not know how to surrender. The Grand Armada entered the solar system. Commander Talus broadcast his message to Earth. His image appeared on every screen on the planet. He wanted humans to see his face. He wanted them to know who would destroy them. "People of Earth, you have defied the Dominion Empire. You have destroyed our ships. You have challenged 10,000 years of order. For this, you will be erased." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Surrender now. Kneel before the Dominion, and we will only kill half your population. Your survivors will serve us forever as a lesson to other species who might think of resistance. This is my only offer. You have 1 hour to respond." Captain Yoon Hannah responded from the bridge of the Silent Wrath. Her voice was clear and strong. Broadcast to every ship in the Dominion fleet. "You should have brought more ships." The battle began. The first wave was not made of ships. It was made of drones, small and fast, and numbered in the millions. They poured from hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt like angry insects. Each one carried a pulse hammer, programmed to activate within range of enemy shields. The Dominion ships opened fire, destroying thousands of drones. But there were too many. For every 100 destroyed, 1,000 more appeared. They swarmed around the larger ships, slipping between defensive fire, getting closer and closer. Then the pulse hammers activated. Across the Dominion fleet, shields flickered and died. Ships that had been invincible suddenly became vulnerable. Their crews stared at their displays in horror, watching protection disappear like morning mist. The human attack ships followed the drones. Lieutenant Baek Jin led Black Phoenix Squadron into the chaos. His fighters moved at speeds that would kill most species. Human pilots could survive forces 15 times their normal gravity. They had trained for this since childhood. Their bodies and minds were weapons as much as their ships. Jin dove between 2 massive Dominion cruisers, firing as he went. Without shields, the cruiser's armor meant nothing. His weapons tore through metal like paper. Both ships exploded behind him as he was already targeting the next enemy. "Phoenix Squadron, stay tight. Watch your sectors. Do not let them recover." The Dominion fought back with everything they had. Energy beams filled space with deadly light. Missiles launched in countless waves. The sheer volume of fire was terrifying, filling the darkness until it seemed impossible that anything could survive. Human ships died. Pilots died. But they did not stop. Captain Yoon Hannah commanded the Silent Wrath through the center of the battle. Her ship took hit after hit, alarms screaming, crew members falling. She ignored all of it. Her focus was absolute. "Target their communication ships," she ordered. "Blind them like we did before. Make them fight alone." The Silent Wrath and its squadrons struck at the Dominion's communication network. Ship after ship fell. The carefully coordinated Dominion formations began to break apart. Ships that had fought together for centuries suddenly could not hear each other. They started making mistakes. They started dying faster. Commander Talus watched his perfect fleet descend into chaos. He screamed orders that no one received. He demanded reports that never came. The battle he had planned was disappearing, replaced by something terrible and unstoppable. How are they doing this? He demanded. They have 400 ships. We have 10,000. His tactical officer looked up with fear in his eyes. Commander, they are not fighting like any species we have ever faced. They do not retreat. They do not surrender. Even damaged ships continue to attack. They are insane. In his fighter, Lieutenant Beak Jin saw his damage indicators turn red. His engines were failing. His weapons were nearly empty. A smart pilot would retreat and repair. A normal pilot would save himself for the next battle. Jin was neither smart nor normal. He was human. He looked at his sensors and saw a Dominion communication hub ship still operating, coordinating a section of the enemy fleet. If it died, another 1,000 enemy ships would be blind. Black Phoenix. This is Phoenix Leader. I have a target but no way back. Tell the Admiral it was an honor. Squadron Commander responded immediately. Jin, no, pull back. We need you for Jin, cut the transmission. He pushed his damaged fighter to maximum speed, diving straight toward the hub ship. Defensive fire surrounded him, burning through his remaining shields, tearing pieces from his hull. Pain exploded through his body as shrapnel cut into his side. He did not stop. The hub ship tried to move, but it was too large, too slow. Jin's fighter struck its main reactor at full speed. The explosion lit up the darkness for 1,000 kilometers. Jin's final transmission reached the fleet before he died. Tell them that humans do not know how to surrender. The battle continued for hours. Human losses mounted, but Dominion losses mounted faster. The pulse hammers had changed everything. Without shields, Dominion's advantages in numbers meant less and less. Dr. Choi Su watched from her laboratory on Earth, monitoring the performance of her weapons. When she saw Jin's sacrifice, she wiped tears from her eyes and then returned to work. There would be time to mourn later. Now, she had to make sure his death meant something. She activated the large-scale pulse hammer array hidden in the asteroid belt. It was her masterpiece, designed to affect hundreds of ships at once. She had not been sure it would work at this scale. Now, there was no choice but to try. The array fired. A wave of quantum disruption spread across the battlefield. 200 Dominion ships lost their shields simultaneously. Human attack ships fell on them like wolves on wounded prey. Commander Talus watched another section of his fleet die. Around him, officers reported damage and loss with voices that had stopped believing in victory. The greatest armada in galactic history was being torn apart by a species they had mocked as insects. The eternal dominance shook as weapons struck its hull. Talus stumbled but stayed on his feet. He was commander of the Grand Armada. He would not fall. He would not run. Captain Yunhana's voice came through the communication system. Commander Talus, your fleet is broken. Your ships are dying. You have lost. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Talus stared at the communication screen. Surrender. To humans. To the pale worms of the dead spiral arm. The thought was impossible. Disgusting. Against everything he had believed for 300 years. The Dominion does not surrender to insects, he spat. Hannah's response was simple. Then die like one. The Silent Wrath and its squadron focused all their fire on the eternal dominance. The flagship's shields were already gone. Its armor lasted only seconds. Commander Talus died, still standing, still refusing to believe what was happening, still certain that the universe he knew could not possibly end. Of the 10,000 ships in the Grand Armada, fewer than 800 survived to retreat. The largest military force in galactic history had been defeated by 400 ships in the determination of a species that refused to die. Admiral Kang Tae received the final reports. Humanity had lost 180 ships. Thousands of soldiers were dead. The cost was terrible, but they had won. Earth was still there. Humanity was still there, and the Dominion would never be the same. Tae stood before a window, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a broken fleet was limping home. Somewhere out there, an empire was learning that it was not as powerful as it believed. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was changing. Lieutenant Jin, Tay said quietly to the stars. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. None of them will be forgotten. The battle was over. But the war had just begun. The news of the Dominion's defeat spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. For 8,000 years, the Dominion had been invincible. For 8,000 years, every species had lived under their shadow, obeying their rules, paying their tribute, accepting their place. Now, the shadow had been torn. Light was coming through the cracks. 12 species declared independence. Within the first week, on a cold moon in the outer territories, the green-skinned people of Vala destroyed their dominion. Governor's palace, and raised their ancient flag for the first time in 3,000 years. On the desert world of Keth, workers in the mining camps stopped working and began fighting. On 100 other worlds, conquered people looked at each other and asked the same question. If humans can win, why can't we? The Dominion tried to respond. They sent fleets to crush the rebellions. But their grand armada was gone. Their military was stretched thin across 2,000 star systems. Every ship they sent to one rebellion left another territory unprotected. The Empire was bleeding from wounds it could not close. High Overlord Vex sat alone in his throne room and felt his power slipping away. He had ruled for 1,000 years. He had believed his empire would last forever. Now, he watched it crumble because of one small blue planet in the dead spiral arm. Ambassador Riva arrived at Earth 3 weeks after the battle. Her shuttle descended through clouds over the Atlantic Ocean and landed in a city still scarred from the defense preparations. Humans watched her with careful eyes as she walked down the landing ramp. She was the first alien to visit Earth peacefully. Admiral Kong Tae met her personally. They stood face to face, two representatives of species that had never spoken before the war. I come on behalf of the Syndicate of Free Worlds, Riva said. Her voice was soft but strong. We are 40 species who have maintained our independence through careful diplomacy. We watched your battle. We saw Hat you did? She paused, choosing her next words carefully. We were wrong about your kind. We saw your small territory and assumed weakness. We did not understand that you were preparing. Tay nodded slowly. We had no choice. We knew what the Dominion would do to us eventually. We decided it was better to be ready. The Syndicate wishes to propose an alliance. The Dominion is wounded, but not dead. Vex still has ships. He still has soldiers. He will come for you again. Together, we may be strong enough to stop him. Admiral Tay considered the offer. Around him, his advisors whispered concerns. Could these aliens be trusted? What did they really want? Were they using humanity to fight their own battles? Tay silenced them with a raised hand. We accept your alliance, he said, but with conditions. We did not fight the Dominion to create a new empire. We fought for survival. We fought for freedom. After this is over, every species will govern themselves. No more overlords. No more tributes. No more lesser species. We will be neighbors, not masters. Reva smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had allowed herself in decades. Admiral, I believe this is the beginning of something the galaxy has not seen in 8,000 years. Hope. The Free Systems Alliance was born. 6 weeks after the Battle of the Solar System, General Park Day led the first human ground assault on enemy territory. The target was Keth 4, a fortress moon that served as the Dominion's forward military base. It had been designed to withstand sieges that lasted years. It had never been conquered. Human transport ships descended through fire. Dominion defenses threw everything they had at the invaders. Ships exploded. Soldiers died before they reached the ground. But enough got through. Park Day was 63 years old. He had fought in the last wars between human nations before the unification. He had trained the first generation of soldiers who would face alien enemies. Now, he stood on alien soil for the first time. Surrounded by troops in powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any unaugmented human, remember. He told his soldiers through their communication systems, the Dominion has never faced an enemy that thinks like we do. They fight in rigid formations. They follow orders without question. We adapt. We improvise. We surprise. Show them what human creativity looks like in battle. The Dominion soldiers were impressive fighters. They were larger than humans, stronger, with thick skin that could stop small weapons. They had centuries of combat experience. They held defensive positions that should have been impenetrable. They had never faced guerrilla warfare. Human soldiers did not attack where they were expected. They came through maintenance tunnels. They dropped from ventilation shafts. They appeared behind defensive lines that should have been secure. They used the fortress's own systems against its defenders, hacking security doors and life support and power grids. When Dominion commanders tried to coordinate a response, they found that human electronic warfare had isolated every section of the fortress. Each defender fought alone, not knowing what was happening in the next corridor. The fortress was designed to withstand a year-long siege. It fell in 6 days. Prince Corrin watched the fall of Kethfor from a safe distance. He was the only son of High Overlord Vex, sent by his father to observe and report. He was young by Dominion standards, only 150 years old. And he had never seen war before. He had expected to see the fortress destroy the human attackers. He had expected to report victory to his father. Instead, he watched the last defenders surrender, marching out with their hands raised while human soldiers guarded them with weapons ready. Father was wrong, Corrin whispered to himself. We did not mock a weak species. We woke something terrible. He contacted his father immediately. Vex's face appeared on the screen, older somehow than it had been weeks before. The stress was showing. The fortress has fallen, Corrin reported. The humans fight like nothing we have ever seen. They do not follow rules. They do not respect tradition. They are ... unpredictable. Vex listened in silence. His yellow eyes were cold, but there was something else in them now. Something that might have been fear. Return home, Vex commanded. I will need you here. What are you planning, father? Vex smiled, but there was no warmth in it. If the Dominion cannot survive, then neither will the humans. I am assembling every remaining ship in the Empire. I will lead them myself, and I will burn that blue planet until nothing remains but ash. The order went out across the Empire. Every warship was to return to the homeworld. Every soldier was to prepare for deployment. It was the final gamble of a desperate ruler. If Vex won, the Dominion might survive. If he lost, there would be nothing left. Reports reached Earth within days. Human intelligence, aided by newly allied species, painted a terrifying picture. 50,000 ships. Every remaining vessel the Dominion possessed. It was 5 times the size of the Grand Armada that had already been destroyed. Admiral Kong Tay gathered his commanders for the last time. They are bringing everything, he said. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. Vex knows this is his last chance. If he loses, his empire is finished. Captain Yoon Haina studied the numbers on the tactical display. We have rebuilt our fleet to 600 ships. The Free Systems Alliance adds another 5,000, against 50,000. I know the numbers, Tay replied. I also know what is at stake. This is not just about Earth anymore. This is about the entire galaxy. If we stop Vex here, the Dominion dies. If we fail, he will spend the next 1,000 years hunting down everyone who ever opposed him. General Parkday spoke from his command post on Kethfor. Then we do not fail. We have not come this far to lose now. Dr. Choi Su joined the meeting from her laboratory. I have been working on something new. A device we call the Sun Spike. It can trigger a miniature solar flare, localized and directed. The energy release would destroy thousands of ships in an instant. She paused. But it requires a delivery system. A ship would need to carry it directly into the enemy formation. The crew would not survive. Silence filled the room. Everyone understood what she was saying. General Parkday spoke first. I will carry it. I have lived long enough. Let me give these enemies something to remember. Admiral Tay looked at his old friend. They had served together for 40 years. They had built this defense force together from nothing. Now one of them would not see the end. Are you certain, old friend? Parkday smiled. It was the smile of a man who had made peace with his fate. I am certain. Let me do this one last thing for Earth. Let me show the galaxy what human sacrifice looks like. The preparations began. Earth waited for the final storm. Across the Free Systems Alliance, species who had never fought together trained and planned and hoped. The fate of the galaxy would be decided in one battle. And Admiral Kang Tae, looking at the star maps showing the approaching enemy, allowed himself to smile. "Good," he said quietly. "Let them bring everything. I want this to end." The final fleet gathered in Earth's solar system like a shield made of hope and desperation. 8,000 ships from humanity and 40 allied species floated in the darkness, waiting for the storm that would decide everything. They were outnumbered 6-1. They knew many of them would die. None of them ran. Captain Yoon Hannah walked through the corridors of the Silent Wrath, looking at the faces of her crew. They were young and old, men and women, veterans of the previous battle, and newcomers who had volunteered knowing they might not return. She stopped in the main corridor and gathered them around her. "Some of you will not survive this battle," she said. Her voice was steady and warm. "I will not lie to you about that. The enemy is bringing everything they have. They want to erase us from existence. They want to make the galaxy forget we ever existed." She paused, letting her eyes move across every face. "But your children will live. Your families will live. They will live in a galaxy without chains, without overlords, without fear. That is worth any price. That is why we fight. Not for glory. Not for revenge. For the future." The crew stood straighter. Fear did not disappear, but it became smaller. Purpose filled the spaces where fear had been. "To your stations," Hannah commanded. "The enemy arrives in 6 hours." High Overlord Vex stood on the bridge of his personal flagship, the Eternal Dawn. It was the largest ship ever built, a mountain of metal and weapons that could destroy a small moon with its main cannon alone. Around it, 50,000 warships waited for his command. Vex looked at the star map showing Earth and its defenders. Such a small force, such a small planet, such a small species. And yet, they had wounded his empire more than any enemy in 8,000 years. "Begin the advance," he commanded. The Dominion fleet moved. It was so large that it took an hour for all ships to enter faster than light travel. When they emerged at the edge of the human solar system, they blocked out the stars, a wall of metal and fire that stretched across space like a promise of death. Vex broadcast his message to all channels. He wanted the entire galaxy to hear his victory. "I am the overlord of 10,000 worlds. I have crushed rebellions that lasted centuries. I have burned planets that defied me. I have erased species from history for less than what you have done." His yellow eyes burned with cold fury. "Your defiance ends today. Your species ends today. The galaxy will remember you only as an example of what happens when insects challenge gods." Admiral Kang Tae responded from Earth Defense Command. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. "The galaxy will remember this day, but not the way you think." The battle began. The human-led alliance attacked first. They had learned that waiting meant death against superior numbers. Small attack squadrons launched from hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, striking at the edges of the Dominion formation before retreating into the darkness. Dominion ships died by the dozens. But there were always more to take their place. Vex smiled. "They are brave. I will give them that. But bravery means nothing against numbers. Push forward. Ignore their attacks. Make for Earth." The Dominion fleet advanced like a slow tide. Alliance ships tried to slow them, tried to create openings, tried to break their formation. For every ship they destroyed, 10 more pressed on. The mathematics of war were brutally simple. Dr. Choi Soo watched from her command center on the moon. Her screens showed the battle in cold numbers. Ships lost. Ships destroyed. Ammunition spent. Time remaining. "Admiral," she reported, "at current rates, the enemy will reach Earth in 4 hours. We are inflicting damage, but not enough." Tae nodded. He had expected this. He had planned for this. "Signal General Park Day. It is time." Park Day received the message aboard his command ship, the Final Dawn. He had chosen the name himself. It seemed appropriate. All crew, abandon ship, he ordered. Escape pods. Now. His officers looked at him with confusion and fear. General, we cannot leave you alone. That is an order, Park Day interrupted. His voice was gentle but firm. You have done your duty. You have fought well. Now let me do mine. I will pilot the ship manually from here. One by one, the escape pods launched. Within minutes, Park Day was alone on a ship designed for 300 crew members. He looked around at the empty corridors, the silent stations, the waiting controls. Then he smiled. He said to no one, "Let us show these bastards what an old man can do." The Final Dawn accelerated toward the center of the Dominion fleet. It moved faster than any ship its size should move, its engines pushed beyond every safety limit. Warning alarms screamed. Systems overheated. Park Day ignored all of it. Dominion ships turned to engage him. Weapons fire surrounded him, striking his shields, burning through his armor. His ship began to break apart around him. He kept flying. "Admiral," he reported, his voice steady despite the chaos. "I am in position." Activating the sunspike. The device at the heart of his ship began to glow. Energy built within it, more energy than any ship should contain. The hull started to melt from the inside, Park Day said. "For humanity? For everyone who will live because we fought." He pressed the activation button. The sunspike released its energy in a single brilliant flash. A miniature star was born in the middle of the Dominion fleet. It existed for only a fraction of a second, but that was enough. 3,000 ships closest to the explosion simply ceased to exist. 5,000 more were damaged beyond repair, their systems fried, their crews killed by radiation. General Park Day died instantly. He felt no pain. He had time for one last thought. He hoped his children would be proud. The Dominion fleet reeled from the blow. 8,000 ships gone in an instant. Confusion spread through the survivors. For the first time, doubt crept into their hearts. Admiral Kongte gave the order. All ships attack. Give the general's sacrifice meaning. The Alliance fleet surged forward. They fought with fury that shocked their enemies. Ships that should have retreated pressed their attacks. Damaged vessels rammed into Dominion cruisers instead of withdrawing. Pilots flew into impossible situations and somehow survived. High Overlord Vex watched his fleet dying and felt something he had not felt in 1,000 years. Fear. Real fear. The cold certainty that he might lose. "Focus all fire on Earth," he commanded. "Ignore their fleet. If we cannot win, we will ensure they have no world to return to." The remaining Dominion ships turned toward the blue planet, their weapons charged. They would burn the atmosphere, boil the oceans, crack the crust. Humanity would end even if the Dominion did too. Captain Yunhana saw the change in enemy movement. She understood immediately what Vex intended. "All squadrons with me," she ordered. "We stop them here, or we lose everything." The Silent Wrath and its escort ships threw themselves at the advancing Dominion fleet. They blocked weapon ports with their own hulls. They absorbed fire meant for Earth with their shields. They fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Hannah's ship took hit after hit. Systems failed. Crew members fell. The bridge filled with smoke and sparks. She stayed at her command, directing fire, giving orders, refusing to give up. "Captain," her weapons officer reported, "we have a clear shot at the Eternal Dawn, but our weapons are nearly depleted. We can fire everything we have left, but after that, then fire everything," Hannah said. She opened a channel to the enemy flagship. Vex's face appeared on her cracked screen. "You called us worms," she said. "Insects. Level 0. You laughed at us in front of the entire galaxy. Your ship's weapons charged for the final shot. We do not forget. We do not forgive. And we do not lose." The Silent Wrath fired every remaining weapon directly at the Eternal Dawn's command deck. The massive ship's shields were already weakened from the battle. The concentrated fire broke through. High Overlord Vex had time to see the energy beam coming. He had time to understand that his 8,000 years of rule were ending. He had time to feel rage and fear and something that might have been regret. Then he was gone. His flagship broke apart, its pieces scattering into the darkness. Prince Corrin watched from an escape shuttle. He saw his father's ship die. He saw the Dominion fleet losing its coordination, its will to fight. He saw humans and their allies pressing forward, destroying ship after ship. He gave the only order he could give. All ships, retreat. The battle is lost. Retreat. The survivors ran. Fewer than 5,000 ships made it back to Dominion space. The empire that had ruled for 8,000 years was finished. Admiral Kong Tae stood in the war room. Watching the enemy retreat, around him, officers cheered and wept and embraced each other. The cost had been terrible. Half their fleet was gone. Millions were dead. But they had won. 3 months later, the Galactic Council met for the first time. 200 species gathered, most of them free for the first time in living memory. They offered Admiral Kong Tae leadership of the new order. The Dominion was gone. Someone needed to fill the empty space. Tae declined. Humanity did not fight for power, he said to the assembled representatives. We fought because no one, no species, no empire, no overlord, has the right to mock the dignity of another. We are not your rulers. We are your neighbors. Let us keep it that way. The Free Systems Alliance became a partnership of equals. No tributes. No lesser species. No masters. Years passed. Worlds healed. Species that had been enemies became friends. Ambassador Riva visited Earth on the anniversary of the final battle. She walked through a memorial garden where the names of every fallen soldier were inscribed in white stone. Thousands of names. Human and alien alike. All honored equally. She found the name she was looking for. Lieutenant Beek Jin. Below his name, his final words were carved in stone. Tell them that humans do not know how to surrender. Reva bowed her head. She had been alive for 400 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had never seen anything like humanity before. We know, she whispered to the stone. The whole galaxy knows now. She looked up at the blue sky, the white clouds, the yellow sun. Such a small world. Such a young species. And yet, they had changed everything. Behind her, children played in the gardens. Human children. Alien children. They chased each other and laughed, knowing nothing of the war that had given them this peace. That was how it should be. That was why the soldiers had fought. That was why the heroes had died, so that children could play in gardens under peaceful skies. Never knowing the cost, only knowing the gift, the galaxy remembered the day humanity struck back. Not as a day of destruction, but as a day of liberation. The day the chains were broken, the day the impossible happened, the day the worms taught the gods to fear.